Canadian Minister of Labour and Seniors and Newfoundland MP Seamus O'Regan was part of the delegation in France this week, and that is where we reached him. Hi, Minister. It's good to see you. Thank you so much for making the time for this.
Thank you, Vashi.
I imagine that you had an idea or a conception of what this trip would be like. What has it been like?
Hugely emotional. It is for any Newfoundlander who has the great good fortune of coming here. There's a caribou that you see here, and these big bronze caribou statues. They are dotted throughout the trail of the caribou, the various battles that the Royal Newfoundland Regiment fought during the First World War. And there's one like it back in St. John's in Bowring Park. So people are familiar with the one in Bowring Park, and they come here and they see what they symbolize. That caribou back in St. John's faces these caribou. And it's emotional as we did the trail with a bunch of us to see it and to understand that connection to home. It's so, as you describe it, it was our Memorial Day, July 1st. That was the day of that they fought at Beaumont-Hamel and suffered the catastrophic losses that they did. So since we joined Canada and it became Dominion Day and then later Canada Day, July 1st has always been, I think, kind of special in a sense. We go from, recognizing such tremendous loss and commemorating their valor, and then we go over and we party just like every other Canadian on Canada Day. And the way I describe it is, we live the freedoms they fought for. It makes for an extraordinarily special day, and that is the day that we will bring back and entomb the unknown soldier. So we will be taking with him on a military plane with us, and that is very powerful for all of us here. Very powerful.
I think that there will be a number of people watching today who maybe aren't even aware that Newfoundland was its own dominion during World War I. More than 12,000 Newfoundlanders served in some capacity in the military or in support of it. 1,700 died, 800 have no known grave. What do those numbers mean to you after this trip?
This is my third time, and perhaps maybe it's age, but I continue to get more emotional every time I'm here, as does, frankly, all of us. It's the scale, if you can imagine it. It was the best and brightest of every one of these tiny fishing villages and hamlets and towns and a city like St. John's, but it was their best and brightest that they sent over. Their most ambitious, their most worldly, maybe the most dutiful. They all felt the need to go, and so the loss was tremendous. It was beyond even those numbers, because every one or two of those men were the best and brightest of their community, and there were hundreds of those communities. So that I know, as a Newfoundlander, as a Labradorian, I get that, as do people here. That loss was huge. I mean, we weren't, it's not like every time a fisherman went out to sea or somebody went into the woods, we knew there was a chance they wouldn't come back. It wasn't that it was irregular, but to have that many people go at once over there, in a place that they'd never heard of before, Beaumont-Hamel, Beaumont-Hamel. These are places that they hadn't heard of. So there's so much to be proud of, but it just makes the waste all the more, because you see, as you see in many First World War battlefields, the distances they were fighting for, the small distances that were considered victories, and the places where they died and were buried. So the unknown soldier is really, it's something that started with the Brits in 1920. It's meant that soldier is meant to represent all those that we haven't found. Because what we do here, and what the Commonwealth War Commission does, is where you fell is where you lay. And they do this very, very rarely, only for unknown soldiers, is that they exhume them and they take them home. But that is rarely done. Westminster Abbey, the Americans, the Australians, New Zealand, Canada, only some 20 years ago, and now Newfoundland, recognizing that it was its own nation. Now we have an unknown soldier, and now we get to bring our boy home.
And just before I let you go, Minister, what has it been like sharing that experience, sharing that emotion with veterans that are alongside you on this trip?
Oh, you're going for the tears. It gives you a sense It gives you a sense of, a sense that I've always felt as Veterans Affairs Minister and did long before. I was involved in the 100th anniversary commemorations before I entered politics. It gives you a sense of what's at stake. It gives you a sense of the lessons that we need to learn. It gives you a sense of what sacrifice and duty are really all about. And you know, the world that they confronted back then, 100 years ago, much like today, you know, felt very precarious. Peace felt very precarious. You felt like anything could happen at any time, and it did. And we need to learn from that. We need to learn from that. We need to learn from what they teach us here.
Minister, thank you so much. I appreciate you making the time, and certainly safe travels to you and the entire delegation.
Thank you, Vashi. Thank you so much.